Hey third grade, it's Mrs. Wade here to teach your math lesson today as we look at a few more things in math. Today is going to be our final lesson of this chapter. And tomorrow on Tuesday, March 31st, we're going to go ahead and do a review of the whole entire chapter 9 lesson. And then on Wednesday, you're going to have an open book test. Now, open book means you'll be able to use your book, your school book, in order to answer all the questions. So there's no need to stress about it, and we're going to review a lot of it tomorrow. But first, let's look at our last lesson of this chapter before we move on. So in the last two lessons we've had in math, we've talked about perimeter and area. So perimeter is the distance around a figure. So imagine you're walking around a track field. Area is the number of square units needed to cover a surface. So you're looking inside a figure. We would define these with units squared. So that's why on your homework you had to write square units, 7 square units. You guys did a great job with that. Now we're going to look at volume, which deals with solid figures or 3D figures. So volume is the space a 3D figure occupies, and you use units cubed to define that space. So let's watch this short video that kind of shows you how to identify it by counting the number of cubic units used within a solid figure. Give me 1 second to go ahead and okay, let's watch this.
Measuring volume by counting unit cubes. You've learned that volume is the space a three-dimensional figure occupies, and unit cubes are used to describe that space. The number of unit cubes that form a figure without gaps or overlaps is the volume of that figure. For example, this figure is formed with unit cubes. Let's count the unit cubes to determine its volume. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 unit cubes. So the volume of this figure is 8 cubic units, or 8 units cubed. Let's look at this figure. What is its volume? Notice that this figure is 2 unit cubes wide. We can see 7 unit cubes in the front of this figure. In the back of this figure, there are also 7 unit cubes. So, there are a total of 7 times 2, or 14 cubic units. When the specific unit of measurement is provided, such as inches, feet, or yards, the volume is labeled accordingly. Let's try to determine the volume of the following figures. The first figure is made of 1 centimeter cubes. There are 5 of these 1 centimeter cubes that form it. So its volume is 5 cubic centimeters, or 5 centimeters cubed. The second figure is made of 1-inch cubes. There are 8 cubes that form the figure, so its volume is 8 cubic inches, or 8 inches cubed. And the last figure is made of 1 feet cubes. There are 6 of these cubes form the figure, so its volume is 6 cubic feet, or 6 feet cubed. Great work! In this lesson, you learned how to find the volume of a three-dimensional figure by counting the number of unit cubes that form it.
Okay, so there you go. It tells you a little bit how to do it. Within your homework, you're going to be able to measure by cubic centimeters, and then they also have by cubic units. So the last thing I want to look at is just a few examples to kind of show you. Some of you might have one of these at your house, right here. This is a different one. This is actually Mr. Wade's favorite college football team is the Nebraska Huskers. So I bought this, his grandmother bought him this a while ago. It's a Nebraska Huskers Rubik's Cube. So if you look on this Rubik's Cube, you can see 9 squares, smaller cubes that make up the cube on this side. But then you see it actually has multiple sides. So how do I figure out how many cubes are there? Well, first I can go around and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and count it all. Or I could also look at there's 9 on this side, but then there's 9 total on this side, but then there's 3 different rows. So I could do 9 times 3 gives me, there's 27 smaller cubes that make up this whole Rubik's Cube. So if any of you have one of these at home, maybe play with it and take a look at it. Now, another way that you can go ahead and think about volume is a lot of you may have Legos or blocks, or you've played with them at some point in your life. So you take the Legos and you have smaller different ones to make a whole figure. So if you have Legos at home, I'd like you to do this today. I'd like you to go get your Legos or blocks if you have some, and I'd like you to go ahead and try to get the same shape. So if it's a rectangle, rectangular prism, or a cube, and put a bunch of them together and make one solid figure, and then figure out what your volume is, which would be all the separate cubes or rectangular prisms that make it up. That is what your volume is. So let's take a look at our homework today. And we'll go ahead and I'll walk through a few problems of it, and then you're just going to go ahead and submit this online like you have the last 2 lessons through a Google Classroom form stock that you can find under your Google Classroom assignments. So give me 1 second, let's pull this up. Okay. There you go. So as a reminder, volume is the measure of space inside of a solid object, such as a cube or rectangular prism. So let's go ahead and look at a few of these. It's measured here in cubic units. So if you look here, they're telling you it's with cubic centimeters. So you can write that out as cubic centimeters or 1 centimeter cubed. Okay, so let's look at A. So basically what you're going to do, and it might be helpful if you lose track, is you're going to count how many cubes are used within it. These are each 1 cubic centimeter, each of these cubes. So now you're going to go through and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how you're going to go ahead and write that down is you're going to write 5 cubic centimeters. Or you can write 5 and then cm cubed. I can't make a little 3, but you guys can probably do that in there. So go through the rest of these and you can go ahead and you'll be able to count each of them and figure out how many. Look at them. None of them are 2 layers. They're all 1 layer, but you'll want to be careful to count for each and every one of them. Okay, let's look at the back side of your homework. So come on over here. So just a little different. If you notice, you have this one. The first one's done for you. This one, they're just measuring in cubic units. So they didn't give you centimeters, inches, feet, yards, nothing. So here you're just going to go through and count through. So here they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're going to go ahead and do that for the rest of these and find the cubic centimeters. I would encourage you, if you have some other time today, go ahead, and it's a great way to go ahead and pull out if you have Legos or blocks or something and mess around, maybe make some of these specific volume cube examples that are on your homework. Okay, 3rd grade. Well, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. A lot of you have been reaching out, whether on Google Chats or email. If you have questions, I'm always here to help you out. Have a great day, 3rd grade.